Welcome back to another 7 Deadly Sins origin video. Today we have a P10 Tristan showcase. I'm going to do all three of his weapons. This will just be a full, showcase. Fire, his dual swords is burst, his long sword is burst, his great sword is quote-unquote damage. So I'll have timestamps, I'll have everything up. If you enjoy the content, like, comment, and subscribe. And let's look at all the different builds with him and what you get for being P10. So first off, we'll do the Fire Burst. He's obviously a decent Fire Burst character. Not quite as good as Gila, I'll tell you that for free, but at P10, you get something absolutely insane with him. Also, I have just a random level 30 weapon on him, but it is crit chance, and that's what we're wanting to do for one of his abilities here. Crit chance comes from his armor as well. It also gives you Fire Burst efficiency, and it'll give you more Fire Burst efficiency here. So this armor is very good, and obviously will help you a lot. What you're getting from him, though, is at P7, when landing a critical hit with the special attack, it cools down, its cooldown resets, and its damage is increased by 30% for 10 seconds. We don't care about this, but it just auto resets its cooldown, and you can do this 2 times in a row. So it's actually really cool. This ability right here, his slash, you can just hit it, and this is the one that decreases enemies' fire resistance. You'll see me multiple times in this video. You can just hit it 3 times in a row. Super cool. But P10 is where he becomes insane. When the hero activates a Fire Burst, all allied heroes' fire damage increases by 15%, and fire heroes' critical chance is increased by 10% for 30 seconds. That is extremely powerful, and that's obviously the main, this is the biggest benefit you get for having him P10. So let's go into it, and I'll show you kind of how, resetting this works to where you can do it multiple times, and just kind of how big of a difference that P10 makes for damage. Now remember, when you land a crit with his special attack, it's going to instantly recharge itself, and you will see that right off the bat here. We're obviously just going to fight Gallon here and just focus on getting him burst, because the thing with Tristan is, like I said, he's not the fastest burster. There are faster options, especially Gila, right? But when you do burst him at P10, you get a massive, massive benefit. So remember, bursting at P10, you get the 15 fire damage and 10% crit. You're going to see me slow it down for you so you can see it pop up. Boom. There's the fire damage increased. There's the critical chance increase. So now Escanor comes in, and he's obviously critting at a higher clip and doing 15% more damage. Obviously, that is very powerful. And like I said, although he may burst, quote unquote, a little bit slower than Gila, that is absolutely massive because it also lasts for 30 seconds. And look at below the health bar right now, how much boost we have going on. And like I said, a lot of that is to do with him. And because it's 30 seconds, you can kind of keep this looped basically the entire time. Here, I'll show you the special attack cooling down. Obviously built up a lot of crit in him, but you'll see here, I put it in slow motion. 1, 2, 3. So you can do it 3 times. You notice his bar, it doesn't make a crazy ton of difference, but obviously the more crit you can get on him and then the more burst efficiency you can get on him, the better it will be. Now, one of the best things about Tristan, and something that, maybe you don't even know about, obviously you want to burst with him, right, to get the extra fire damage and the extra crit chance. He has a combo ult with Escanor that only costs 4. It only costs 4 mana. If you have Manny on the team, you can basically do this forever. Like, she builds your, mana so quickly that for only 4 bars, you're able to just instantly burst them and to get that boost from Tristan from his P10. It's actually kind of crazy, and obviously Escanor is like the main fire DPS, so it works out really well. So in general, my feedback would be, if you're looking for the fastest burster, it's obviously Gila. If you're looking for someone that can boost you with extra damage and extra crit chance as long as you've got him at P10, or if you're just missing Gila in general, Tristan is actually very solid. Even just a P7 to where you can hit that ability over and over. If you can get fire, burst quicker, or just burst efficiency quicker in general, it'll help with that ability as well, and obviously using crit to be able to reset that ability. He's pretty fun to use. Like I said, he's not the best burster, but he does get a huge benefit at P10, and so I just wanted to show that off. Next up, we have the Great Sword, and I've not seen hardly anyone do anything on this, so I'm going to explain this one a little bit more to kind of just show you what you're looking for. Each time the special attack hits, the hero's crit chance is increased by 1% for 10 seconds, and you can do this up to 20 times. Basically, this is going to work with this Fire Slash. You spin in a circle for a long time, and you're hitting them multiple times at a time, so it's very little damage, but you're just hitting them over and over and over and over, and you're gaining these embers, right? And then what these embers do, you're going to stack them up, and it'll increase your normal skill, and it'll do your ultimate damage by 3%. The whole concept here is you're building up both of these to then try to do like a massive nuke with his ult. Inflicts damage 270%, then removes Ember from self. We will not be removing the Embers because he's P10, and I'll show you that in a minute. But this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to build up all the Embers and then charge this attack where it does 467% attack, and then removes Embers from self, which will obviously, the point of the Embers is ultimate move damage by 3%, and you could stack this 10 times, so you could do 30% more damage. So the whole concept here is build up these Embers and then hit a nuke with his ult. Now, with his potential, what makes this, decent A fully charged ultimate attack inflicts 105% of attack without removing embers, so you no longer lose them. Again, they only last for 10 seconds though, and you'll notice that. The special attack chance to grant ember additionally increases by 100%. So instead of it being 50 like it was, it's now 100, so you're guaranteed to get them. The attack pulls the enemy towards the hero, and the final strike stuns the enemy for 5 seconds. Obviously, you can't really stun most of the big enemies in this, so for every 5 special attacks hit, and like I said, you're just spinning over and over, damage equal to 35% of its attack is dealt to nearby enemies. So this is kind of like an AoE attack, and I'll show you when we get in here. You're just kind of spinning, and let me throw up some footage while I'm talking about this. But you're just kind of spinning in an area, you're building up a bunch of stacks, and then you're trying to nuke with his ult. So let me get into it, and I'll show you kind of what this looks like. So we're just about to fire burst here, and then you'll see me hit the spin attack that I was talking about. So this right here is what you're building up. You can see the charges building at the bottom there. You can go up to 20. There's the 20th stack. So now the whole concept here is you're going to try to hit the ult nuke on him. So you're going to see me charging it here. It's kind of cool. You charge it, and then it hits the ultimate animation. You'll see me hit him here. 40,000, and then it hits 6,000 after because of the potential. And then you see me spinning again. So yeah, it's interesting. Interesting is definitely the best way to put it. So I'm going to let this play out. You'll see here I'm charging up the stacks again, and you're going to be critting a lot because he is building up his crit. And you can do, like I said, a decent amount of damage. But there is a reason why you see me doing this fight specifically, because any of the big enemies with this build, you're just not quite going to be able to achieve what you're wanting to. Like I said, you can see I'm doing a little bit of damage here, critting. The thing you'll notice, though, as I go longer into this video, when you're standing still, as I'm about to hit the ult here, 57,000, decent, right? Plus you get the extra damage there. So when you're standing still, spinning in a circle, you're going to be taking damage. Now, also, I mean, I'm just an idiot, right? Like, I'm just playing like an idiot anyway. The thing about it is, you're just spinning here, right? And so you're just going to be getting hit by default. You see me taking a bunch of damage there, taking a bunch of damage here. And that's the biggest issue I've kind of noticed with it, is as you're just spinning around, you're just kind of getting hit. The ults are kind of fun, and you can charge them up and do a decent amount of damage. The spinning is kind of fun. You're doing a decent amount of damage. You're just taking a lot of damage. And yeah, obviously at this point you would probably back up and heal, but I'm just going to show you, like, you're spinning for the fences, trying to do as much damage, and you're just going to die. That's the one thing I noticed, is you will be taking a lot of damage while you're spinning. That's just that simple for this build. Overall, I'm going to say it is fun, but it's not obviously going to be the most meta, and it would be a lot better on a boss you could obviously stun. But yeah, it's fun. I just don't know long term that you're going to get a ton of value in it. I would not recommend, putting a ton of resources into it. Last but certainly not least, we have his wind build, and this is also burst. Really good right now for Clotho if you want to do damage with her. So, he's shining in that role, and he's got some really good stuff to him, and you get a lot from his potential too. All allied heroes' wind damage increases by 15% for 30 seconds when you burst, so that's really good. This bleeds and just does, some burst gauge, not a ton. The wind thrust is really good because at I think it's P5 or 7, you can do this twice, and I'll show you in a minute. So you can do this more than once, and this builds up a good amount of burst, and then additionally increases the burst gauge by 200 if the enemy is bleeding. This is what applies the bleed for you. So you hit this first, then you hit this to bleed. His ult also increases the hero's wind burst efficiency by 30% for 20 seconds. So decent stuff here. I do have the new weapon too. The new weapon is really good. Attacking an enemy without a burst activated increases all elemental burst efficiency by 24% for 15 seconds. That's because it's level 4, but I also wanted to get the new weapon in here. So now from his potential, there are 2 things you get that's really good. So P5, landing the special attack, additionally increases the burst gauge by 200. It's obviously really good. P7 changes the normal skill that can be used 2 times, which is very good. But this is insane right here. Activating a wind burst with a normal skill decreases the enemy's crit resistance by 15% for 30 seconds. That is generationally insane. Like, that's actually, like, genuinely crazy. So you're always going to want to burst with your normal skill once you get him to P7 because you automatically get the crit resistance. P10, it amplifies his ultimate move, Final Strike by 150. Not really great. Honestly, the P10's not good, but the P7, if you can get him to P7, that is insane. So the most important thing with Tristan is to always start with the Storm Sword, because this will bleed them, and that will allow the Wind Thrust to do 200 extra burst because of that. And at P7, as you saw there, you can do it twice. So that's a very effective combo. That's the best benefit you're getting, and you can see you can burst him that quickly with it. Another thing I wanted to show you is when you do ult with him, you increase your wind burst efficiency by 30% for 20 seconds. That's very powerful. And when you activate the burst here, like you're going to see, all allied wind damage is increased by 15% for 30 seconds. So a lot of this stuff stacks together and is very powerful. Also, when you burst them like I just did with his dash ability, you got another bonus too. He's doing so much, and I'm going to show you separately what that does. This is going to allow people to do a ton of damage. So we're just going to look at all of it here. So first of all, if you miss his special attack, you still get the wind burst efficiency. That's very good to note. So you're going to see here, I'm going to do the double dash. So the dash is going to be the one that burst him. So I'm going to pause it here. Crit reduction defense, 15%. That is crazy. And that's why you need to always burst with that ability, the dash, if you can. And then obviously you see the wind damage increase. That's just from his passive. So all of this is stacking together and it's kind of crazy. And you can stack it even more if you have Hauser. Hauser also reduces crit resistance, as you can see in the top left corner, but you need him to be bleeding. Guess who bleeds? The GOAT, Tristan. So Tristan can bleed him with his other ability. Hauser can then benefit. Hauser's armor also allows you to do 40% more crit damage. So this is why you see, Clotho just kind of going off here as I'm getting murdered at the same time. But all this can set up Clotho and you can do a ton of damage. Super fun. Tristan as the wind, very good.